Hello, my name is Orion Junkins, and this is a presentation of a deployability-centric approach I've developed for river flow rate forecasting. So the core problem we're trying to address is the fact that floods are very damaging, but in particular, unexpected floods are most damaging of all. If we have accurate flow rate forecasting, it enables more effective preparation, evacuation, and response coordination to mitigate the impacts of these natural disasters. So there are many different hydrological models that have been developed for this task, and typically, production approaches combine conceptual and physical models. For example, the National Weather Service in the US uses these types of models to forecast about 3,400 gauges in the US, issuing forecasts like the one shown on the right. And these approaches are generally effective, however, more accurate approaches do exist. Specifically, empirical machine learning-based approaches have demonstrated higher accuracy in recent years. These approaches generally use large neural networks and large data sets with high dimensionalities. And these approaches do enable accurate modeling, but they depend on extensive computational resources, making them very challenging to deploy at scale. Thus, these approaches have failed to replace conceptual and physical models in production settings despite being demonstratively more accurate. Our research aimed to outperform the NWS forecast accuracy using an empirical ML model, as other approaches have done, but we also sought to demonstrate that this approach is realistically deployable, as in it is usable in the real world in a practical way. For our approach, we take in river flow rate data provided by a network of USGS gauges, and for each gauge, we look upstream throughout the catchment and sample weather data using a provider known as OpenMeteo throughout the catchment. So for each of these sampling sites, we draw in 11 weather data features, resulting in a very high dimensionality. To handle this, again, feeding all this data into a single network would be impractical and ineffective, because it would have extensive computational resources needed, and we would lose the spatial relationships. So we adopted a stacked ensemble approach to handle this high dimensionality. Each individual model in this approach remains lightweight, but we preserve the spatial relationships and accurately model the entire catchment. So we use an ensemble like the one shown here that takes in a collection of X datasets, each one specific to only a single weather sampling site. So rather than taking in all weather data, we only look at a single location at a time, and a tributary forecasting model attempts to predict the gauge using only data from that single site. These tributary forecasting models produce a collection of intermediary predictions, and a second stage ensemble model draws on these intermediary predictions to produce our overall master prediction. This approach has been shown to be more accurate than the NWS models, outperforming them on mean average percentage error up to a 72-hour forecast window. And it has also been shown to be realistically deployable, and by that I don't mean we have shown it is theoretically possible to deploy, I mean that we have deployed this entire system on AWS. At scheduled intervals, Amazon Web Services fetches updated weather and flow data, runs inference with our custom ensemble models, and publishes those forecasts to our custom frontend, level-sage.com. All of this is occurring for less than a penny per model per day, or about 24 cents per model per month. If you're interested in further information on this work, you can see our full-length paper that was published in ICFSP in 2022, or contact myself or Patrick Donnelly.